Welcome once again on EThekwini Matters, a program where we ventilate several service delivery issues. Today we're talking about refuse removal. That's why we have invited our acting head of CSW, Umama Noluthando, Magewu, to share with us her turnaround strategy with regard to the operations pertaining to CSW. Good day, ma'am, and warm welcome to EThekwini Matters.
Good day, Musawake. I'm glad to be here this afternoon.
You're looking good.
I'm trying to lift myself off the waist.
I think from the onset, we need to commend you and your team for the progress that you are making in ensuring that our city is clean. Would you mind to share with us what is it that you have done differently now that we are seeing tremendous change, considering the fact that we're the second biggest metro. By virtue of being the second biggest metro, we produce a lot of solid waste. So just tell us briefly your journey to where we are right now.
Thank you, and thank you for the compliment. And most probably I would need to acknowledge the teams that work really hard, and I wish that we'll always see them for the work and recognize the work that they do.
Yeah.
I think let me start from the beginning.
Right.
I think the whole conception of the direction that we take, it just comes from a few quotes that I really like. The first one is by J.P. Morgan,
Right.
that says you can never change any situation unless you break it down into really small pieces.
That's profound.
So instead of it being just a vague and a vague difficulty, then you take it into a granular detail.
Yeah.
And I think that was the basis of that. The second one, very simple, is that leadership is about two things.
Right.
It's about truth and trust. You ceaselessly pursue the truth, and then relentlessly pursue trust with your teams. So I knew I was walking into an environment that had serious issues, and I was already privy to that because I was in the organization. So I knew that speaking the truth all the time and earning the trust of the people that I'm supposed to lead is what will take us through.
Yeah.
The other one, I think, is just my heart for service.
Right.
It's understanding that when you are made a leader, you are given a responsibility to bring the best out of others. So the strategy then, having said that, became very simple. It's a three-pronged strategy. The first one was just to look at the business processes. So if you say to me, is it a strategy in terms of mapping out a huge vision?
Yeah.
Most probably not, but I knew that if we do not stabilize the operations and earn the credibility back in the eyes of the ratepayers, it doesn't matter how fancy our strategy was going to be. So we went out with a very simple, simple tactical strategy that we could maneuver every day.
And it's paying dividends.
It is, I must say. But we flipped the business upside down, completely flipped. So we started with looking at business processes. You cannot run a business without data.
Right.
So if you don't know how many runs, as you call the trucks that are driving around, you called it a run. If you don't know whether you've done all your runs in that day, then what business are you running? So I pretty much introduced daily reporting so you can understand how difficult that would be. So the daily report would have your tonnage, would have your trucks and their status, would have the number of runs, really basic information. But in that, and also the shifts, who meant the shifts and all that. But in that, it also familiarized me with the issues that were in the business.
Okay.
So we started there, and then you mine that data because it helps you. But the most important thing about that daily report is for you to identify the emergent issues and deal with them in time. So you then need a platform. So I had to set up a WhatsApp group that had all the ACOs and all the managers. So if you have a truck breakdown, then you tell us and you say, I don't have a truck, but we must know today about a truck that broke down today, not tomorrow morning. so that we can plan for tomorrow morning. If it then means we have to align the shifts so that we respond better, then we'll have to do whatever it takes. But we had to learn to be a team.
Yeah.
I think that was the most important thing. If you know solid waste and the nature of relationships, they really are marked by mistrust and strain.
Yeah. One other thing is that we're a city that is home to 600 informal settlements.
Correct.
And recently I drove on several occasions in areas like your Ketsomena, all these areas that have got the informal settlement, more especially the one that I'm referring to. I see the consistency in terms of refuse removal, taking into account that it is very difficult to be able to for our teams to access those areas. How are you doing it?
It's a trust business. If you speak solid waste, it's your first interface that the resident has with the city. It's your water. If you open your tap, you want to be guaranteed that the water will run. If you switch on your light, you want to be guaranteed. If you put out your refuse, you want to be guaranteed. I don't want to lie to you and say it's quite easy. We are struggling, particularly with informal settlements. We're trying to reconceptualize, while we're doing that, our own business models. So there's quite a lot of gaps in how we've managed them. We've used the formal residential area model of collecting once a week in an informal settlement. So we're gravitating now towards more of a community-based program. But what we're doing now, which is almost like just like an emergency thing, is to increase the frequency. We collect as much as we can, but we're working with human settlements. And I think the pillar of the strategy has been in collaboration with our business units. We work very well with parks. We took them on an adventure with South Berea, and I think you can attest to that. My favorite photo is that Davenport area and all that. You can see marked improvement there. So we went in there with parks, roads and stormwater, and the other colleagues. With the informal settlements, we're working very closely with the Department of Human Settlements to pilot community-based waste management programs where we use the residents to get inside and do the collection, and then our trucks will then collect outside the settlements. So I'm hoping that we can multiply those and also include and incentivize a program of separation at source. So as they collect, if we give them most probably 200 rands more or whatever, and then they start separating the plastic, the cardboard and whatever, then you can get the scale.
One exciting thing that I've noticed is the issue of our staff being visible all the time. I've seen them literally sweeping during the day, in the morning, whenever, literally picking litter, which is quite good. It's a good sight to see our foot soldiers literally doing the work.
I think it's more in the narrative. In my other life, they call me coach. I'm not sure whether I'm coach. And I truly think that the city needs more of the leadership and putting yourself out. The narration that I gave my staff, very simple narrative. I said, until we own the space that we're in, everyone else is going to own it and tell our story. We'll be called lazy, we'll be called all these things. But if we step out and just do the bare basics that we're expected to do. But by doing your daily reports, it improves the supervision. Because what are you going to report daily if your staff is not working, and doing the collection?
But they say it takes two to tango, meaning that it's not the responsibility of the city alone to collect refuse or to keep our city clean. But we as individuals, as businesses, we've got our role to play. What is your message to all the citizens of EThekwini to ensure that they work with the city to keep our city spotless clean? We've got incidents whereby some factories happen to dump illegally, and they know that the city is going to come. But we can't continue like that. But we also have got a mentality that you have to deal with to our citizens themselves, because they have got, some of them have got this mentality that, no, I can throw it anyhow, the city will come and pick up. It doesn't work like that.
I think, Musawake, the one thing that I know for a fact is that success breeds success. I am seeing residents starting to collaborate with us. Can show you numerous pictures. with the managers that are open to the collaboration message that I'm preaching, that you can't do it on your own, you'll find that one region has already had like 3 cleanups that are run by communities, and we partner with them. But if you ask me what is it that I need the most in my war chest, that's what I call it, it's the residents.
Okay.
Even if you take 100 meters outside your house and you keep it as clean as you can, you take out your refuse on the day that you're supposed to take it, you put your litter in a bin when you're walking around, half of my problems would be solved. So I think with the residents, there are many layers. There's just the individual in terms of my own behaviors and taking responsibility for the environment. I think you saw it with the last floods. We attribute it to climate change, but the reality is that the waste issues aggravate the impact of those disasters. So if we understand it, that each one of us can contribute in that. With the businesses, I would definitely would like them to assist me with the mindset shift. With my staff, I'm aware that there'll come a time where maybe fatigue will set in. So I'll need to start incentivizing good behaviors. We used to have truck driver competitions and all those things. With our resources as the city limited, with business really being busy. But if you can sponsor me 5,000 of a bribe that my depot that has collected for 3 consecutive months without any interruption in the service, we start incentivizing them differently and rewarding what they're doing. I would like the whole society to really come out with me in whatever ways that they can imagine they can contribute towards the city.
I see you also have got, we're heading towards conclusion now. I see that you also have got educational programs that are also targeting schools, because we're of a strong conviction that, we need to teach our young ones at school to know that they have got a responsibility to play, to keep our environment clean, to keep our city clean. Tell us briefly about those.
I think if there's one area that CSW has done very well, has been around the school programs and getting into schools and educating children. However, we're in a technology-driven environment. I think that people like you need to come on this journey with us, where we can create animations and create the education material on platforms such that every school in Durban, we have about 500 and something schools. We can't reach all of them. But if we do it creatively, and that's why I'm saying we need the war chest in whatever form. If you can contribute towards a PR and marketing or communication program and you pay for it, we're happy with that. If you say to us, look, I'm very good in designing behavioral projects. We have retired teachers, we have people who have always been in the system and know how to change behaviors. I think that is the ideal. When we cycle, so why can't we breathe and have stabilized this? These are the big ideas that we want, that when we've earned our trust, because that's where I'm starting from, I need the credibility in the public domain to be able to have these big conversations and these things that will give all of us joy.
And then lastly, we have got incidents of some from our communities dumping illegally. And you have to go there, and clear those illegal dams. And they seem to be a moving target.
They are.
What is your message to them? Where should our residents report such rogue elements in our communities?
We do have a number that we can provide. We do have enforcement.
So we'll just write it on our screen so that everybody will be able to see it.
But the reality of the matter is that illegal dumping is two-pronged. It comes from non-collection in other instances. That's why we had to improve that, so that we reduce the incident of illegal dumping by individuals. But the second one, I think it's behaviors that we haven't napped as a city over time. Then that become normal practices. Unfortunately, as much as there's a lot of carrot that we want to take out, enforcement needs to be a reality. And we are planning, we'll invite you most probably by mid-April.
I saw some have been fined.
We have fined some, but we're also wanting an aligned program
Yeah.
with all the enforcement officers, not just aligning when there's a cleanup, but to consistently work together and resolve those issues. We have building rubble that is consistently coming out in the CPT. On the other hand, we're excited that there's a lot of renovations and building work,
Yeah.
but it's not impacting positively on our work. So those are the things that we need, the partnerships in the city itself.
Yeah. Ma'am, thank you so much for your time. I think you were very clear of the journey that you are traveling, and wish you all the best. And I hope that you're going to make some time to come and chat to us on the variety of issues that have got to do with the refuse removal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was Umama Noluthando Magewu, who is our acting head of CSW, stating it clearly that we all have got a responsibility of ensuring that our city is clean. So please heed that call because the city won't be able to do it alone. It requires you and all our stakeholders to work together to ensure that we live in a city that is clean. Remember to click the subscribe button so that you do not miss the next episode. And we thank you so much for watching.